Welcome back, and always great to have in the studio with us today Treva Kuyper. She's a co-director of a ministry that is absolutely impacting young girls from 8th grade through 12th grade. It's called the Loft, and they're well under their way for this season. And coming up, your topic is?
Hooked is the name of the theme is Hooked, and we're going to talk about addictions and breaking free from them this Sunday.
Okay. How big of an issue is this between 8th grade and 12th grade?
It's a huge issue. I think this is where addictions start. This is such a pivotal age for them, and a time where they want to try out different things and kind of see what everybody's talking about. And it's beyond just drugs and alcohol as far as addictions for the girls. We're talking eating disorders and cutting, technology, the internet, shopping even, and boyfriends. They can be addicted to their boyfriends and relationships, and so it's very widespread.
How do you identify an addiction to a teenager that doesn't want to hear it?
That is really hard. I'm not sure that a lot of them want to hear it. Yeah. Even this Sunday at the Loft, you know, I want them to come, and even if they're coming for the dinner that we're going to feed them or the prizes we're going to give away, I want them there because we're hoping they'll have a light bulb moment. A lot of them don't want to hear about addictions, but we always bring in a woman to share her testimony, and we're having a woman come in who was addicted to every drug out there and was saved by the Lord a few years ago. And her pictures, her photograph of what she looked like addicted to heroin and meth versus what she looks like today is completely amazing. She's a miracle. And so she's going to come and share her story with the girls. And I think that these are those moments that are so important to have, where bring the girls to the Loft, let them actually hear a testimony of someone where the Lord changed them, freed them from that addiction. We're going to show photographs so that they can see what this woman's life was like beforehand. And with teenagers, you almost have to have a little bit of a shock, because they kind of just go through the motions. And oftentimes they say, oh, that'll never happen to me, or that's not happening to me. And so through stories, through visuals, you know, I think that shock value is good for them. It kind of wakes them up out of their slumber.
Wow. Most addictions are very hidden. They're under the table. And so I know that you're going to deal with all the addictions on top of the table. Hopefully that you'll have that, you call it a light bulb moment. But I would assume that you have the drugs, I get that, and they're so available today, so available. All the other things. But isn't technology now the center of all addictions? In other words, if you can find out what you're addicted to and where to get it from the technology in your hand. Exactly.
Yes, kind of the core.
Yeah.
Kind of the core.
Yeah, it's kind of like the neutral ground for everything.
Yes, and they don't know any different. So they've been raised in the internet age and in technology. They don't know what it was like to not have their phone in their pocket, to not have a laptop to get on, to not, I mean, you give them a phone book to try to find a number, they don't know how to use a phone book, right? So their whole life is revolving around technology. Absolutely, it is the core.
What's the difference between a habit and an addiction?
Well, I think we all have habits and routines, and they're not all bad. A lot of habits are good. You know, I'm not going to say that we're addicted to taking a shower, because taking a shower is a good thing, right?
Yeah, well, that's nice.
So, but we can, like with our teenagers, they're in the habit of always communicating over text. That's a habit that they have. But when the habit turns into something negative or harmful to ourselves, for example, with texting, if they don't know how to have a face-to-face conversation, that's going to affect them in the future for job interviews, for working, for career, all of that. So it can quickly, a habit can quickly turn into an addiction. Maybe even with pornography, our girls are addicted to pornography. With that, now that's not a habit, but out of curiosity, they can go look at porn and they think, oh, well, I only do that once in a while. That's not a big deal. But that is something that quickly turns from something they do once in a while into an addiction. It's kind of like a gateway
drug, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And so they don't understand the path that they choose. They don't understand the road.
How do you get a teenage girl to say, to check themselves that they are addicted to something and they kind of know it, but they just don't have the personal fortitude to overcome it?
Well, I think that we as adults, we have to come alongside them, and they're going to open up to those that they trust. So for parents, my advice is make sure that not only can they trust you, that you have that relationship with them, but if you don't, have someone else in their life, a mentor, a youth worker, a pastor, that does have that, or a friend of the family that has that relationship with them, because they are the ones, we can't make them see it, but the teenager has to be able to speak it out loud. They have to be able to say, oh, maybe I do have an issue here. Or maybe just in conversation, they bring something up like, I haven't eaten for a couple of days, or I don't eat very much lately. But if they're saying that to someone they trust, that person, that adult that they trust, needs to be aware of some of these behaviors and can say, oh, maybe there is an issue there. So it's kind of all of us working together to support them, because they're not going to figure it out usually all on their own.
Teenagers have one thing in common, and that is they kind of protect their own, even though there may be some bullying going on, but they don't necessarily squeal on one another. And the problem with that is that they don't know or have the maturity to save a friend from an addiction that could really damage them. So they're not going to run to their parents and say, hey, Susie over here is doing drugs. You know, so how do you get them to say, look, the best thing you can do as a friend is to step in the middle of this?
You're absolutely right. It's so true. They keep secrets, and then they keep their friends' secrets. And it's not until it's too late that they usually realize, oh, I probably should have said something. So again, at the Loft, we address that. We address, how can you be a friend to someone who is addicted to something or you think has an issue? And we challenge them. We have to challenge them that for the love that you have for that friend, you have to speak up. Speak up to the friend and speak up to an adult. And you're right, Perry, they don't do it very often, but we have to keep challenging them. We have to keep raising the bar to say, you're capable of this. You're capable of loving your friend in this very active manner.
Well, Paul Coughlin will tell you the first thing you do to break bullying, somebody's got to stand up. Somebody's got to say, knock it off.
Yes.
And I would assume that the best thing you can do to a friend is say, hey, look, you're doing something that's going to destroy you. But they may say, well, forget you, I'll go get another friend, you know.
Exactly. And the friendships are very important. As parents and mentors, we need to be aware of who our teens are hanging out with, because oftentimes if a girl is cutting or has an eating disorder or smoking weed or, you know, whatever she's doing, oftentimes she might be in a friend group where everybody else is okay with it. And if their friend group is okay with it, with the behavior, no one's gonna blow the trumpet.
I understand a lot of the addictions. I mean, whether it's media, you could have caffeine. It's amazing how many kids are on coffee and all the sweet drinks these days. You got prescriptions, you got controlled substances, you got eating disorders, you got sexting today, which is a huge issue. I understand the boyfriend thing, but the one I don't understand is cutting. I don't understand that. What,
you know,
what is it?
I did not understand this years ago until we started speaking about it at the Loft.
Really?
Yes, and so it's huge. It's very easy to hide, because when our children become teenagers, we're not changing their diaper and bathing them anymore. So they can literally cut up their body, they can get dressed, they can have larger sweatshirts, they can have pants on, they can hide the scars from their parents. So cutting, the basis behind that is that usually there's a root issue. I would say almost 100% of the time, there's a root issue of pain going on in this girl's life. So either maybe she's a victim of bullying, she's a victim of abuse, she's a victim of something, or she feels as though her world is falling apart. And maybe her parents are getting divorced, maybe her best friend moved away, but there is some pain involved there. She doesn't know what to do with the pain. She doesn't have an outlet for the pain, at least in her interpretation. And so when they harm themselves, the pain that they inflict on themselves is them controlling some type of pain. It's very similar to an eating disorder, is that they're inflicting pain upon themselves, but it's pain in which they control. And the endorphins and the things that are released in the brain when they cut, it releases the chemicals in the brain that are like the happy chemicals, and it actually brings a physical sense of relief. Now, I have never cut myself, I've never harmed myself, and so in my mind, I think, wow, I don't understand how someone could hurt themselves. But the more I studied it and the more I talked to girls who have come out of the addiction of cutting, I understand it a little bit more. And it's a hard one, but it's extremely popular right now.
Popular.
It's popular. It is. And what happens, Perry, is, and I'm really careful at the Loft, because when I say that out loud, girls in their mind, when I say it brings relief for a moment, because it will.
It plants a seed to try it.
It plants a seed, and it's hard because you have to talk about it, and yet I'm not trying to give them an idea of what to do, but it does bring relief for a moment, and then it brings shame, regret, guilt, and everything else, and it can be a huge addiction. And a lot of times what happens is girls will eventually cut too deep, and they're in the emergency room or death.
What advice do you give the parents? I mean, the kids are so secretive. They are so good at camouflaging stuff. You know, what do you do? What do you say to the parents to help them help you, or you to help them to look for these things?
Well, I always encourage the parents, again, to try to have that open relationship with their teen. And it starts from when they're little. As we're raising our children, we need to be involved in their life, in their world. They need to know that we love them, and we love them through discipline, but we love them through all the other ways that God gives us as well. So it starts when they're little, and so that when they're a teenager, they'll even care about what you have to say. But having open communication with them, and then also having the mentors and everything in their lives to pour into them, and to read up and study up on what your teens are doing.
Well, folks, I can't say enough about this ministry and what Treva and her crew is doing. You can go to theLoftSouthernOregon.com. That's the website, theLoftSouthernOregon.com. If you have a teenager and you want them to be involved in this about hooked addictions and breaking free, this Sunday night, what time, where?
5:30 to 8:30 at Community Bible Church in Central Point.
Yeah.
And we'll feed them dinner, and we'll get real with them.
Yeah, come and bring a friend.
Yes.
You know, be a part of it. Thank you, Treva. You're doing a great work. Thank you so much. Again, it's called theLoftSouthernOregon.com. Check it out. We'll see you next time.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.